While staring up onto the stream, I somehow got separated from Rena. I wasn't very lonely though. I know this place now. This is where I live, my home. It's probably better if I just stay here instead of wandering around aimlessly in the darkness. So that's where we want to be, isn't it? Someone would surely find me while I was enjoying the evening breeze. I heard a familiar voice. It was Tomitake-san's. I headed towards it. How did it go, Tomitake-san? Were you able to get some good shots? Yeah, fortunately. Tomitake-san was with a girl. Damn, we're intruding, aren't we? I felt a little like I was intruding. How was it, Keiichi-kun? Did you enjoy the festival? From the way she spoke, it seems like she was a resident of Hinamizawa. I really should try harder to remember the people's faces here. What was her name? Well, it was fun. My face must have given away how desperately I was trying to remember her name because I gave a light chuckle. Because she gave me a light chuckle even. Was it? I just read it then as well. She gave a light-hearted chuckle. It's probably because it hasn't been long since you moved here. It's pretty hard to believe, seeing how friendly you've got with the other kids. If that's how it's looked, it was probably all thanks to Rena and Mion. Perhaps you feel more like a resident of Hinamizawa after taking part in the festival today. I wonder about that. Oh, that's not like you. I tried to get used to Hinamizawa, but there were still plenty of things I didn't know. The faces of people I met, for example. Things that happened in the past as well. Oh, you're feeling left out because of something like that? It's not so much as feeling left out. It's just, I'm not sure how to say it. That incident at the dam construction site. The fighting over it and other conflicts. That terrible incident they pretended they didn't even know about whenever I brought it up. Even though it was in the past, as someone living in Hinamizawa, it wasn't wrong to want to know about both the good and bad that happened here. If it will put you at ease, then I'll tell you everything I know. Tomitake-san's smile made me more relieved than I ever been. It was hard to think of what to ask when someone said, "Ask me anything though," even when there was so much I wanted to ask. Then, could you tell me about what happened when the dam was being constructed? There was a big incident where Hinamizawa was going to be submerged, right? I think the locals will be more knowledgeable about the dam than I am. Well, if you don't mind, I'll tell you what I know. It's only what I read in the newspaper though. Tomitake-san's eyes entered an unfocused gaze as he searched for his memories. Then he spoke. I finally learned about the dam. The decision to start the dam project was finalized 7 or 8 years ago. I heard it was the next major project after Kurobe. I wonder what that Kurobe project was then. There were 3 major issues in Japan at that time. Improving interland transportation infrastructure, meeting the high demand for electricity, and flood control. There was a boom of dam building due to the massive economic stimulus they provided on top of the generating electricity and flood control. Hinamizawa had the right conditions to support dam construction, so it was singled out. Oh, it's going to be a hydro dam. Huh. The dam reservoir would have covered quite a lot of ground when it was completed. The entire area right up to Higurashi way upstream would be underwater. But why did they have to pick a populated area like Hinamizawa? Couldn't they have picked a place where nobody lived? I'm not really sure why, but I heard that it was the right terrain for building a dam. Of course there were protests here in Hinamizawa. Higurashi said there had been a battle. From that choice of words, I guess things had turned violent. There was a trial and it was even brought up before the National Diet building. That's not even right, it's a National Diet. It was covered in the Tokyo newspapers too. Mion had told me all about that as well. I'm sure every resident in Hinamizawa had united to fight together. The feeling of solidarity found here, which could not be expressed properly through mere words, was likely brought about by that battle. As a result, bribery and scandals were brought to light. As things got more and more complicated, they eventually halted construction. If I wanted to know, now was my only chance to ask. It was certainly a bizarre incident that boys my age would be curious about. I felt a little shame from the fact I was petty enough to have my curiosity piqued by Rena and Mion's refusal to talk about the event. But I figured I might as well ask since I had the chance, just so I would stop thinking about it so much. So, there was a dismemberment, right? There was. I happened to be here in Hinamizawa at the time, so I remember it well. Tomitake-san's answer was nonchalant in contrast to my hesitantly forced out question. It was about this time, 4 years ago. It was the day of Watanagashi, if I recall correctly. 4 years today, huh? Debate on whether to continue construction on the dam was in disarray. Scandal after scandal rocked the project near the end. The incident that was the final nail in the coffin for the dam project. A fight at the dam construction site ended in the victim being murdered. Fearing persecution, the 6 assailants divided the remains into 6 pieces and each hid one. However, the 6 criminals turned themselves in out of guilt, but one of them was still on the run. The right arm he hid had yet to be found. The major details lined up with what was in the tabloid I read earlier. It certainly was a tragic incident, but it wasn't so terrible that Rena and Mion needed to hide it from me. Also, it was in 4 years, that arm would have been fully decomposed by now, but the bones? I believe it was in a condition to be able to decompose correctly. I guess they didn't want someone who just moved here to have a negative impression of Hinamizawa. I felt grateful for having friends who worried so much about me, as well as shame for still being so interested in it. It was near the end of all the troubles with the dam, you see, so everyone was saying that it was Oyashiro-sama's curse. Oyashiro-sama's curse, huh? Oyashiro-sama was the name of the god at the shrine that held the festival today, if I recall correctly. Yes, we learned that only a few moments ago. I see. The guardian deity rained divine punishment down on the evil dam construction for trying to flood Hinamizawa by making 6 people murder a guy. I don't think that's a really good thing for a guardian deity to do. Apparently, the younger ones didn't think so, but it seemed the elderly in the village never doubted it was Oyashiro-sama's curse. The woman with Tomitake-san said with a mischievous chuckle. Tomitake-san began laughing with her. It was so infectious I ended up laughing as well. But I wonder about that now. There was quite a few, I think, amongst the youth too. A few what? People who believe in Oyashiro-sama's curse. The woman's lips were still curled up into a smile, but her expression turned stern. But then, after that, it continued every year, always around this time. Continued? What continued? Tomitake-san paused for a second, as if to build up some suspense. Then, he whispered to me, as if someone might have been listening. Every year, on the day of the Watanagashi, somebody dies. The year following the dismemberment, on the day of the Watanagashi, a man from Hinamizawa who had supported the dam fell off a cliff overlooking some rapids and died while he was on vacation. Unfortunately for his wife, the body was never recovered. He supported the dam construction even though he lived in Hinamizawa? At the time, there were whispers among the elderly saying it was Oyashiro-sama's curse. The woman chuckled mischievously again. Then the next year, the night of the Watanagashi, the shrine's Shinto priest died suddenly from an unknown illness. Oh god, his wife drowned herself in the bog that night. The shrine's Shinto priest? You mean he was from the shrine here? The woman nodded. There was a rumour amongst the villagers that they weren't able to quell Oyashiro-sama's anger. Then the year after that, again on the night of the Watanagashi, they discovered the battered body of a local housewife. Up until now, all these mysterious deaths were people involved with the dam or who had connections with Oyashiro-sama. With that in mind, could the housewife have been involved in some way too? Exactly. No one stated slyly. No, it is more menacingly. One of the victim's relatives, you see, was connected to the younger brother of the dam supporter who fell to his death 2 years ago. The younger brother is still alive, it seems. But it did bother him quite a bit, so he moved to the neighbouring town. Did that younger brother murder his wife then? Huh. For a while I stood there with my mouth agape. The battle over the dam construction with Hinamizawa's future at stake, and the murder at the centre of it all. That was all I knew, and that was all I wanted to ask about. But that wasn't all there was to the story. Homicide, body disposal, accidental deaths, terminal illness, suicide, fatal beatings. I'm a pretty level-headed person. I don't really want to believe in curses, but the freakish deaths happened every year on the day of the Watanagashi, and all of them were related to the dam construction. It was easy to dismiss each of them as coincidences by themselves, but when you put them all together, dismissing all of them as coincidence would then defy logic. Yes, we're getting into the mystery of it all. I don't believe in curses, but every single year on the day of the Watanagashi, somebody or something makes it happen, without fail. The woman chuckled again, as if she picked up on what I was thinking. It felt like she was saying, maybe there was, maybe we frightened him, stuff like that. I felt embarrassed at being read so easily, and pressed Tomitake-san to continue, a bit of impatience and irritation in my tone. Then, so somebody died the next year, right? It was at that time. I wonder, who do you think, Keiichi-kun? The hell? The way you said it didn't agree with me. The sarcastic tone ticked me off. Don't avoid the question, I'm serious here. Hey, calm down, Keiichi-kun. I realised when she tried to calm me down that I had been panicking. We aren't trying to avoid the question, Keiichi-kun. It's just, when you said the next year, that's this year. That's today. When she hesitated to say it, Tomitake-san finished for her. I broke into a cold sweat. I really didn't like the direction this was headed. Nobody wants to speak of it, but they all think it's going to happen again tonight. The festival was so cheerful though. Well, the victim last year, the housewife, she was a non-believer. It turns out she didn't even attend the Watanagashi festival. There was a rumour going around that if you didn't participate in the festival, you would incur Oyashiro-sama's wrath. That's just one petty deity that you don't want to have around, isn't it? Didn't you hear anything about this, Keiichi-kun? I never heard a whisper of that rumour. Then the reason everyone was at the festival was they were afraid of the curse. And what does this say about Keiichi's parents though? Were they attending the festival? But I doubt his dad would have, because busy man, very busy man. I figured that must have been the reason. There was a lot more people at the Watanagashi than usual. I guess everyone was just afraid, after all, of Oyashiro-sama's curse. I couldn't utter a single word. In this modern age, where we made progress in all scientific fields, shedding light on the unknown was and misunderstood, where black and white television had been eradicated and we sent men to the moon, even with all our accomplishments, this can exist in our modern society. Well, they don't have the internet yet, this is like 80s, isn't it? So no cell phones either. That's kind of bad. That's kind of like a shocking thing to realise, isn't it? Also, it's like, what, 20 years now? 20, 30 years? Just wondering about that. Anyway, tons of invitations were sent to the neighbouring town's youth groups to help pad the numbers. But after that string of events, few decided to join. The municipal committee members were complaining about how hard it was to gather participants. Also, the police are treating each case as isolated. They don't believe they're connected. They try to keep it quiet so it's all plainclothes officers. It finally began to dawn on me why Rena and Mion were reluctant to talk. If nothing happened during this Watanagashi, everything would have been over with and I'd be none the wiser. If nothing happened, all would be well. In that case, it would all end up being just crazy talk. I should have just pretended like I knew nothing from the beginning. Then they wouldn't have had to act like nothing happened. And we would have gotten back to life as usual. But that can't happen now, can it? Maybe it was too much for him after all. The woman ran her fingers through her hair as she sighed. No, it wasn't. Not at all. I tried to act strong, but that just served to emphasize how much the information had unsettled me. After seeing how I looked, Tomitake-san appeared to regret saying anything. Letting out a sigh, he spoke, forcing an awkward, upbeat demeanor. Keiichi-kun, surely you don't believe such things as curses? Well, no, but after hearing that, kinda believing it now. If the curses of all the crimes were unknown, with the perpetrators and their methods all mysterious, then I would think it's the work of a curse. But that's not how things are in reality. The police are investigating the evidence as suspects to uncover the truth. Hearing him say police made me feel a lot better. It was perfect for repelling the word curse. The first one, the dismemberment, for example. I told you, didn't I? All but one of the perpetrators were arrested. It's only a matter of time for the last one, unless he was one of the people that got murdered. Maybe that wait, is that how the story goes? Can't recall. The motive turned out to have been an argument while they had while intoxicated. That's no curse. Don't you agree? Thinking too much is a curse. That was true. If it didn't happen on the day of the Watanagashi, then I wouldn't think it was related to the curse at all. The accidental death of the man who supported the dam was the same. He was in a position that made others hate him. The police made a point of investigating that from that angle. They concluded it was an accident, not foul play. But they both happened on the day of the festival, right? Ha 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 ha. Just think about it, Keiichi-kun. Do you think people with a lot of enemies here in Hinamizawa could participate easily in a local festival? It would be especially hard for them to be around during the Watanagashi. So, they probably left Hinamizawa intentionally around this time of year to travel, don't you think? It wasn't a very clear explanation, but I sort of understood what Tomitake-san was getting at. So I pressed on earnestly, asking more questions so I could convince myself. Then Tomitake-san, what about the priest who died after that? The one with the unknown illness? That also happened on the day of the festival. It's even easier to explain what happened to the Shinto priest. The Tanagashi is a really big event that happens over a year. That happens once a year. It's probably from all the built up stress. Or it may have been because of the pre-existing condition. But it was an unknown illness. It's hard to believe something with an unknown cause could exist with our advances in medicine. It was just an exaggeration. Rumours making rumours. Anyone would get worked up over having incidents happen 2 years in a row. The sudden death is quite unnatural though. Of course, the police ordered an autopsy because of the strange way he died. But there wasn't enough of them to open a full investigation, you know. Turns out it was just a sudden death due to illness. And then the priest's wife committed suicide, correct? What about that? I believe I already explained that. Everyone was shaken up by the incident happening for a 3rd year. Those who were strong faith were quick to believe it was a work of a curse. Of course, that included the priest's wife. Apparently found a suicide note that said something like, "My death will quell your Yashiro-sama's anger." Well, how about the next incident with the housewife? What happened on the day? That happened on the day of the Watanagashi too. The perpetrator had already been caught and the case had been closed. Turns out it was just some nut job trying to continue the legacy of the Hinamizawa curse. Then, how about the incident of the next year? Oh yeah, this year is the next year. Tomitake-san gave a hearty laugh. Nothing will happen. Not this year. There was no curse. There was never a curse to begin with. It was just a group of people believed it was the explanation. A group of people believed it was the explanation for a string of coincidences. My internal computer finally got itself back on track. I felt a bit embarrassed by how childish I had become after losing control and panicking. I can see very clearly now that Keiichi-kun really does love Hinamizawa. Even if Yashiro-sama's curse actually did exist, Keiichi-kun couldn't bring himself to believe such a thing existed. I felt relieved. I probably should just forget everything I heard tonight, and I'll greet Rena and Mion tomorrow with the same smile as always. They probably also like tonight. They probably also like tonight to end without incidents, so they can continue on tomorrow without having worried me. Perhaps seeing my change in attitude, the woman who had been listening in stretched as she got up from the rock she was sitting on. Well then, I should be getting back. Goodness, I think I may have gone on a bit too long. There were so few people compared to the crowd from before. They could only make out a few groups of families enjoying the cool evening air. The rest of them were just in a hushed panic. I looked at my watch. It seemed we talked for the better part of an hour. Didn't you come along with your friends, Keiichi-kun? Not going to look for them? Oh yeah. They might be all looking for me. You're quite the scoundrel making the girls look for you. See you, Keiichi-kun. Have a nice night. You too, Jiro-san. I'll see you a bit later. Tomitake-san seemed to be quite the scoundrel himself. Also, his name is Jiro. After dusting off her backside, she disappeared into the crowd of people still busy cleaning up the shrine grounds.